And hopefully I'll do this right. We're live, and I will now dump the music. Stop the loop. And make sure I can do this, and we're the jam.
This is BKK.FM. Bangkok.
Oh my God, who are these guys?
Looks like a full house.
Totally. Yeah, we got the whole radio studio in the background. I hope you don't mind.
All right. Cool.
Yeah, I thought we'd use this instead. Well, greetings and aloha. What's going on? It's Mike from LiveMyAssOff.com and
REEKAY. Oh, and a Skype call. Let me see.
Oh, you're getting a Skype? Oh, dude, we're getting guests already?
Let me see here.
This is giant.
There we go. Oh, wait. That's not Skype. Oh, what a way to start. Okay. And the weird thing, and you know what's the weird thing? That is on my, I'm going to go ahead and close that tab. That'll keep that from happening.
Okay, fair enough.
Anyways, but the weird thing is that came in on my Google Voice number, which I get a call on that like once every 3 months, and it happens now.
Right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, just so you guys know, for a little bit of background, so REEKAY used to own his IT consulting company, and that shows when stuff like that happens.
Oh,
so
yeah.
That's awesome.
But now that the tab's closed, they're gone until I bring them back.
Oh, good. That's good. Well, being in charge, I think, is important, actually.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, man, so it's like, we, Mike and I were here just talking here before we went live. And it's been like the picture that you might have seen in the little promo thing on Facebook and whatever.
Right. That
was at Coronado Island when we were goofing around there all day. And that was what, 2018, I think.
So you were able to sort of tell the timeline based on like where your travels were.
Who I was breaking up with, and yeah.
Okay. I was going to say, what girl of the month was in your dance card? No.
Yeah, and I think it was 2017. 2018 January, and I was like just a few days away from flying back to the Philippines, and we got a chance to hang out there in San Diego, and. Yeah, it was, and it's weird because like I'm starting to realize that my brain does not remember things in the years, like in the orders I thought they happened.
Yeah.
It's like I'm starting to review a lot of, like, for instance, I put up the classic videos once in a while. I'll take a video from like, like an old one that nobody's ever going to find unless you knew the title. You would never find this video. But the content nothing has changed about Filipinas and culture and dating relationships. They're what they call evergreen.
Giving away all your money to the women.
Yeah, and so like I just uploaded one today, and as I was looking at it and uploaded it this morning, in my mind, I thought, oh yeah, I did that video like maybe 2 years ago. And I looked at the date. It was 6 years ago. 6 years ago. And I'm like, where did the time go?
Yeah, I know.
It just, wow.
I find myself, sadly, referring to times around plus or minus horrible events. So now, like it's pre-COVID, post-COVID, right? Before it was like, that was like, before 9/11. Jesus, Mike, get positive.
Well, it's funny. It's, with V, for those who don't know, V, my Filipina fiance, it's funny because, we always, I don't understand guys who say, well, how can you have anything in common? How do you have anything to talk about? Her and I are like chatterboxes all the time.
Right.
We've always got stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
And it's funny because her reference point, like for me, when I'm discussing, things from the past or whatever, to me, like everything is either like like pre 1945, like before during the war, or it's after World War II.
Okay, let's be clear. You're not. You weren't in the war. So
No.
why that point? Why
Well,
that point in time?
well, because to me, that's like the last big event that happened that is like other than the Civil War. You know, it's like okay, anything beyond that, I start thinking about Egyptians and Christopher Columbus and all that
Okay.
stuff.
All right.
So that's my first big marker is 1945. You know, and even though I wasn't born till 63.
I was going to say, dude, you're not that much older than I.
No. And so, but see, now for V, when we're talking, her, 1945 reference point,
Okay.
where all of a sudden now anything beyond that, you're talking about ancient history.
Okay.
I'll be telling her, like, we'll be flipping through Netflix. I'm like, oh, let's watch this movie. It'd be like Die Hard, the first Die Hard. And she's like, we're watching it, and she uses the same phrase all the time. She says, was this in the 1990s? like the 1990s is like before people walked around in color.
Right. Yeah. You're like, no, yeah, everything is in black and white, honey. Absolutely. They've colorized it. Actually, it's a technology that was developed in 2003.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right. Oh my God. And you know what's funny though? I think one of the reasons Gracie and I get along, I guess, because I look at these negative events and I judge the life around it. For her, it's pre or post Yolanda. So with that, and that was you were there
2013. Yeah, right. Yeah, 2013. I was on Bohol, standing out in the wind, waiting for Yolanda to hit. And then I was all disappointed because it hit up north. But I was out there ready to be like, like, I don't know, Dan Rather out there or something, Sandal Donaldson. I was ready out there to be with the camera, braving, hurling wind, and then dive into a cave or something. But
I was going to say Asian reporter Trisha Takanawa, but you could,
there you go.
I get it. I get it. Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, it's funny. Well, all the guys I think that are dating have been like in a relationship with a Filipina.
Okay.
I think can relate to this. That I would say probably 99.9% of them are a real blast to be around. They're cheerful, and it doesn't matter what age they are.
Right, totally.
They're cheerful, they're
Agreed.
upbeat, they're positive, they're funny. And, some guys I sadly see, they don't really engage with that. It's kind of like, okay, if you're going to be all high energy, go do that on the other side of the room kind of thing. But for me,
got it. Okay. Yeah.
I've tried the gambit, and I've been very open about this all these years. I have dated, I think 4 or 5 women that were like, told me they were 49. Every year they were 49.
Exactly.
And
how convenient.
And the thing is, with the exception of one, it was just too slow for me as far as like one was in Vietnam, and then the others were in the Philippines. And but I found that, and American women too. I've dated older American women, which was like like that's like hooking your car to like a Samsonite trailer. Just so much baggage, it's insane.
Dude, wasn't that like back in the 1990s?
Yeah, with the ape throwing it around the room. Yeah. But see, now I kept finding that for me, and again, there's not a cookie cutter answer for everybody, but for me, being with a Filipina as opposed to anyone else I've ever dated, like from Mexico, United States, whatever, it just fits my personality. It brings out the best in me. It makes me just happy to wake up every day, and it's like, it's a beautiful day. It's already a beautiful day. Just having a Filipina in my life.
Well, it's funny, right? I mean, I guess if anyone has never met you or never met me, then they're probably like, why are these guys, and why is the guy with the headphones in agreement with the guy with the, and because, arguably we're a little biased, right?
Yeah.
You've been with V now for how long? 3?
Actually 2.5 years. This coming September, just around the corner, will be 3 years.
Yeah, right. Okay, because you went there for that.
Yeah.
Kind of like I went to Thailand in 2019 November thinking, okay, the world is awesome. The economy is freaking spectacular. Gracie flies over from the Philippines. March 2020 shows up, and then she goes home for 2 weeks, which ended up being 368 days, but who was counting?
Yeah.
And you were in lockdown with V in Cebu for
Hmm.
how long?
That was actually kind of a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, sure.
I met V while I was on a what do you call that? A visa run from Saigon over to Davao, and I just happened to pick
Oh,
Davao
right.
because that September I was due, and Gio was hanging out in Davao del Sur. So I thought, okay, well, I'll just go and I'll get a condo out that way, and we get to hang out for like 10 days, and I just thought I'm just going to goof around, then I'll head back to Vietnam. I was happy as a clam in Vietnam.
Yeah,
So
right.
then 2 days before I'm going to go back to Vietnam, I met V. Like we chatted one night for a couple
Oh, how
hours, and I
cool.
told her I got to meet you. So very
Right.
next afternoon we met. But then we only got to hang out that one day, and then I caught my
Then
flight
you
back
leave.
to Vietnam.
How weird is that?
So I had a lease that wasn't in Vietnam that wasn't going to end until March. Okay. And of
Okay.
course, March is when everything hit the fan.
Right.
I didn't know that in
You're right.
September.
You don't
So
plan for it.
I was so hyped to meet V, to be back with her, that I talked to my landlord and even got my deposit back, and
Nice.
got out of my lease early. And by January 9th, I was back in Davao, picking her up and sitting
Mhm.
down with her parents and explaining, okay,
Yeah.
we're going to be together for a year, and then we're going to decide if we're going to get married or not. That's
Right.
literally what I told them. And I
Okay.
said, do I have your blessing? And they were like, okay. So off V and I started in January 9th. And our plan is still the same. Our plan was, oh, let's live in different parts of the Philippines together for like 3 to
Sure.
6 months at a time.
Right. Yep.
And then after a couple of years, we'll ask ourselves, where do we enjoy the most? Where do we want to buy some land and settle down?
Right.
That's the plan. So off we go after a month in Davao to Cebu, and we went to like three different places in Cebu. We went to different places in IT Park, and then
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
and then Ayala Business Park, and where everything's hunky dory. And then March 15th hits, the Ides of March in 2020, and next thing you know, everybody's convinced, well, this is all the foreigners' fault. They're the ones that brought this here. Nobody wants to give us an apartment. No,
Right.
and it
That's
was like,
right.
man, we're gonna spend, like, we're gonna have to live in a boarding house, and so finally I have to give a lot of credit. And if anybody wants to know, my realtor there
Ah.
in Cebu went to bat for us, went to the Solania condos. She was literally arguing on our behalf for 3 hours, to
Wow.
get us a 1 year lease in there. And they asked for all the stuff. We provided it. So getting back to V and I spending time together. So now we were in lockdown at the beginning of our relationship for 14 months, literally like together 24 hours a day,
And this is a 1 bedroom or studio,
one
2 bed.
one bedroom studio. Yeah.
Okay.
which
All right.
which was ample room, but I mean, thank God it wasn't like lot 8. Those are the size of a jail cell.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Well. Yeah.
um, so we got to build this. It was a unique opportunity. It was almost like it could have been a good reality show. We were literally just like
Right.
stuck with each other for 14 months. We were able to know each other inside out, and what we like, what we don't like, and this is what you're like when you're bored and you're tired, and all this stuff, and how to do problem resolution. And the good thing was, to this day, we've never had a fight. We've had disagreements,
I know
but
exactly what
we've
you mean.
never had a fight. Never wanted to hurt each other. Never, said anything, that we regretted. Never. But we've had our disagreements. I tell her, well,
Yeah.
if you disagree with me, let me know, and we'll hash it out. We'll
Right.
work it out.
I'll tell you why
So
you're wrong, and then we'll move on.
yeah.
Maybe you're not like me. I don't know.
So doing the LDR thing now, we're at a
Right.
huge advantage.
Big time.
I don't worry. She doesn't worry.
That's
We
nice.
know each other.
Totally.
So it's been pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. So you guys, you did your LDR thing. I remember, there you were
Yeah.
there in Thailand. I got lots of monkey footage from you though during that time.
If you guys ever want to know a way to make REEKAY jealous, don't do some Filipino crazy thing. Just send him a freaking live video of you with monkeys around you, and
Yeah.
maybe he'll be like, "Son of a, they told me that, but I want my monkeys." But
I know.
here's what's funny, right? So a lot of this stuff, if you guys don't know, I mean, I'm here in Boston area, REEKAY is in California. Basically, I'm here for the summer. REEKAY's there with family. And normally I live in Bangkok with Gracie, my Filipino wife. And normally REEKAY is in the Philippines, but before this in Cebu, but then other areas with his Filipino fiance. But what's crazy is that when I met Gracie, it was like 2 days. Same deal. It was like, because I don't know about you, dude, but I certainly wasn't going to Boracay. I'm like, okay, I'm going to find a girlfriend. We're going to set the. No, I was just like, okay, yeah, it's Thursday, so I'll hang out with her. Oh, it's Friday, I'll hang out with her. And I'm just like, we're hanging out, right? Having a good time, going to the beach, just like in that video you made of Boracay. And then I meet Gracie, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
And then the next day we hang out, and I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. And she's like, great, when are you leaving? I'm like, so like, gotta catch the boat at 11, head back to Katiklan. And then so we did an LDR, like literally messaging each other pretty much all day, every day for like about 9 months, where I finally came back in. But to the whole like, hey, honey, I'm quitting my job. We're moving to Thailand to hang out. November 2019. We're hanging out. We're going all over the place. We're living in a beach city. We're up in Bangkok. We're flying down to, all over the place. And then all of a sudden March shows up. Okay. And I'm aware of like COVID only because I'm watching my portfolio get a little bit less exciting. And I'm thinking, all right, well, let me stop the bleeding. And then I said, I told her that and said, okay, we're good. Don't worry about it. Everything's on hold and everything. Well, then Duterte says, hey, so we don't know what the hell to do. I mean, he didn't say this, but of course, every leader was like this. We don't know what the hell to do. There's no manual for the COVID. But all you Filipinos, as long as you get back home by this Saturday, he says this like on a Wednesday or a Thursday, then I'll let you in. Otherwise, forget about it. And so I'm like, all right, honey, well, I tell you what, why don't you cruise home and, for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, it
and
won't last long.
I mean, shit. Trump is saying it's going to be over by Easter, and he's, so incredibly religious. I know he must be right. And so she's like, yeah, cool. So she cruises home. I'm thinking 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, and then literally, basically a year later, when she still had to quarantine for 2 weeks in Bangkok before I could even basically see her. And then we finally got together, and it was like a year later. And then a couple months later, we finally were able to get married. It would have been like a few days later, but like, the offices were closed. Like we couldn't even get a justice of the peace kind of thing going on.
Wow.
But to the point of what you were saying about the ease with which, at least I find it, and clearly you do too, with a Filipina, right? I mean, it's not. And yeah, there's disagreements and that sort of thing. But she says the same thing to her friend. She goes, no, we don't ever fight. In my mind, from an engineering perspective, I think to myself, well, fighting is a complete waste of time. Well, right. But it occurs,
Yeah.
And so anyway, well, I tell you what, so we're here. It's like we're about 20 minutes in. And, normally, I don't know about you, but I've watched enough of your live streams and done enough of them to know that I get way behind in comments.
Oh, yeah.
And I think you do the same because we try to be thorough, but we're also, Gifts of Gab, right?
Yeah.
So if you guys don't know, the cool thing, we're in StreamYard right now, but REEKAY has the ability to do the same thing I do. So tell you what, do you want to like pick a comment and we can go down that road? I see the guys saying hi to each other. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah. And let's see. There's some good afternoons, and
actually, we should probably highlight this right away because my ego is fragile, and so I'm going to hopefully guess that you're talking about me and not REEKAY. But if you are talking about REEKAY, that's fine. I just need to basically dial up my warm mids a little bit more, and then I'll be okay. But anyway, Michael, thank you. Yeah, no. Oh wow, look at this. Agree, great radio voice, underrated. Should have a. Oh, okay. So. I wondered why I was making the checkout to a guy with 2 letters like JJ. And when I sent it to him, I said, I don't know. Yeah, fine. Here's $500. I don't know what he needs it for, but thank you so much.
All right.
Cool. You choose it. You choose a cool comment and we'll run with it.
Let's see. I'm going to just grab one at random here. We got John.
Hey, John.
Let's see. Just dropping by to say hello. REEKAY's channels, how I found yours. Oh,
hey,
cool. And first found REEKAY's channel about 5 years ago. Cool.
How old is your channel, dude?
Well,
not
I
old.
started. Well, everybody knows I didn't go to the Philippines with any intention of starting a channel.
No, no.
I was just gonna, I was engaged at the
I was
time,
going to say,
and
yeah, it was to get married,
I was
right?
gonna get married and just travel. I mean, the Philip. I had kind of an anomaly situation where I was dating a Filipina who was like 5 times more wealthy than I was. I mean, everybody can raise their hand who's Filipina gave him a Mercedes. I think I'm the only one there.
So when you say 5 times, you mean she had $27 million? I mean, I did the
Right,
quick
there you
math.
go.
So I was like, all right, I got it. All right. I just
So
wanted the baseline.
so when I went to the Philippines, her divorce was dragging out. That's how I met her. She was in California finishing her divorce, and
Oh, because she was married because I'm like, Filipina and divorce. I thought those two were
oh
not,
yeah,
that's impossible, right?
yeah. So she was getting divorced here in California to an
Okay,
American.
got it.
So then we were already dating for 2 years in California, and
Oh, right,
she
right.
was flying back and forth to Cebu every 2 months to handle, because she owned a bunch of properties, and she
Oh, okay.
bought them. It
Yeah,
wasn't
right.
her husband had like he was getting like about 1,100 a month in Social Security, so this was all money she amassed.
Yeah, that's a
So
big delta.
so anyway, so then so I got tired of waiting after 2 years, her back and forth, back and forth. So I just said, well, I'll just move to Mactan until the divorce goes through, and then we'll get married. And then, she lives up in the like Beverly Hills section of Cebu. She has like 3 houses just on one street there.
Hmm.
And so I thought, my mindset was, I'm going to the Philippines, I'll rough it a little while, and then after we get married, there's a nice balcony, and I can just have some wine and tap out a novel on my laptop, and
Right.
we'll travel. Running a vlog was never on my mind. So when I got to getting back to when did I start the channel, I after we ended up breaking up because he got real sick and he moved back in, she took care of him
Oh,
for
okay.
4 years. So we went
Wow.
our own ways amicably.
Okay.
And she ended up, what was it? Now I think she's hooked up with the private eye that I didn't know she had spying on me.
Okay.
So,
Still in
anyways,
California or over in Mactan?
no, now I think she's in Catalina Island, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, a whole other thing there. So anyway, so what happened was, now that I was this single guy in the Philippines, and meanwhile I'm looking for a way to tell my kids that I'm okay, and so I started making little videos, but then it was like Gmail said,
Right.
"Oh, attachment too big." And I was like, "Oh, well, I'll put them on this YouTube channel that I did, that I never
Right.
used."
Broadcast yourself. You're like, this tech
And
may
and
kick
I
out.
just figured I would send the link to my kids and they would be the only ones to see it. That's how little I knew about YouTube.
Right.
I didn't know the whole planet was going to have access to
There's
this, you know. And next thing I know, people are asking me, like, because I was doing stuff like looking for a chimichanga and just telling the kids, like, hey, there's no good Mexican food so far, and whatever.
and you're living
And
in Mactan at this point.
yeah, and
Okay.
next thing I know, these total strangers are like, "Hey, where do I get a visa, and how much does it cost?" And I was like, who are these people? And so next thing you know, I'm like, well, I may as well answer them. So I started doing videos
Yeah,
answering
right.
their
Sure.
questions.
Yeah.
And then when I moved to Bohol, it wasn't until I moved there in July of 2012. It was
Okay.
May of 2013, almost a year later,
Right.
that I sat there in my hammock and outside and said to myself, I should actually do a channel like on purpose
Right.
instead of just half-assing it.
Accidentally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was the day my first real video was why are Filipinos so jealous? That was the first video I did.
And that one of those ones that like took off. I mean, I know one of your more popular is the woman, the
Women
thumbnail with
over
the woman.
35.
Yeah, she's in
Yeah.
the brown shirt, and that like went crazy viral, right? But did
Yeah.
this one do pretty good?
Well, I mean, it did okay, but here was the thing. It was just dumb luck that the way I decided to do the channel,
Mm,
I was like, well, I don't want to be not myself, because
right.
that's just too draining. I don't want to
It
have to
does.
work myself into a character or something.
Sure, totally.
And then the other thing was, I thought, well, why do I watch videos? Well, I
Mm,
watch them either for entertainment or information. And if I can get both at the same time, well, great. But I
right.
figured I don't have a monkey. I don't have a cute dog. I don't have a really cute girlfriend. I was living by myself there in Bohol. So I thought I'm just gonna have to focus on information.
Monkey, cute girlfriend. I mean, it really 6 of
Oh
1.
yeah. So I ended up doing information videos, and as it turned out, from 2013 till about almost 2015, 16, nobody else was doing that.
Right.
Nobody else. It was just me.
Especially in the Philippines. There were a few guys in Thailand, but you were it, right?
Yeah. So I had 100% market share there for a while. And it was awesome. And and then when I didn't have information to give, I was like, well, let's see. I got to walk home, like 45 minutes in the dark through the jungle anyway. I think I'll shoot a video.
Right. Yeah.
Just any goofy thing, going to the fish market. And then people were like looking at this from their cubicle in Iowa.
Sure.
They're like, that looks insane. I want to do that. And next thing you know, they're in the Philippines doing a vlog.
And that's how I found you, right? I mean, I just came across it, and I'm sitting there in and you're like, oh, yeah, I'm going to go back to California. And I'm like, really? You're from here? Like, I'm watching a guy on literally the other side of the world. I'm here in San Diego. He's like, oh, my God, I love Mission Beach. Like, what the hell?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love Mission Beach.
Now, where did we meet up when you came home? Where was the first spot?
Oh, the first time we met up, you were on your way back from Vegas.
No, the first time we met up was in Dumaguete. I had just left Boracay,
oh, that's right.
And I had just met. Wait, so now she's making a premiere. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Gracie Somerville.
Hey.
You want to say hi to REEKAY here?
Hi. Hey, ¿cómo está?
Hi, I'm good.
Hello. I finally get to see you live.
Are you live?
I am live. Yeah. The whole world is seeing you.
Yeah, I'm just making a bracelet. But it's too short.
Oh, yeah.
It's too short.
Well, she found some extra shoelaces I had, so therefore she went to work.
Oh, okay.
It's not too short for you. It's perfect for you, but it won't fit me.
Where's the other stuff?
There's another 50 shoelaces downstairs because my dad apparently likes to collect everything. Yeah, I'll show those to you later. Totally. Yeah, I love it.
It's next to the pile of extension cords. Yeah.
Dude, so here's what's funny about that, right? So not only is there a pile of extension cords, there's a pile of extension cords where like the plug or the receptacle doesn't work. And so it's cut off. So basically it's like 30 feet of orange cable. And I'm going, like, why do you? Of course, then I go to Home Depot and it's made out of copper. And I'm going, my God, it's like $85 for the friggin', 16 gauge wire. But it's crazy. Anyway, okay, so I got completely distracted. But I remember what happened was I was staying in Boracay. And then I'm like, hey, dude, I'm here. And I flew to Dumaguete. And we met at that coffee shop.
Yeah, you had just gotten off Sikihor, I think.
And here's what I just remember.
That was another.
So we meet in Dumaguete. We're hanging out, right? At the Why Not, right?
Oh, okay. The Why Not.
Afternoon. And then like a couple of days later, I meet you and your then girlfriend at a restaurant that's like on the second floor, a little bit north of the beach. And I look out and I'm like, what's this out here? And she says, oh, that's Sikihor. And I said, you mean like prostitutes with colds? Like, what is a Sikihor?
Yeah. Right.
And she goes, no, it's pretty cool. So then I hop on the boat, I cruise over there, and I'm like, oh my God, this place is amazing. And then what happens? I get replies on my phone from this girl who I'd never met, who's got this beautiful picture in a red dress, Gracie. So I'm like, all right, well, shit, I'm going back. So that was the first time we met.
Yeah.
In Dumaguete, when you were living there, and you were with Lynn. Is that right?
Yeah, Lynn.
Yeah. But we didn't talk that long then. It was about 3 hours maybe.
Because now I remember, we met then, and then it was when you were on your way back from Vegas was later in December when I was here in California visiting California.
We went to the pho place.
Yeah, weird. That was weird. Remember, there was the 8-year-old kid at the table next door or next to ours, and so here we are in Murrieta, white bread, California. And Mike and I are just chatting away. And then this 8-year-old kid with his mom at the table next to us turns around and says, "You're REEKAY."
I know, right?
And I'm like, why is this kid watching videos about the Philippines? And how does he recognize my voice?
Hey, and kid, you want a girlfriend?
Yeah, and it's like, and then I looked at his mom. It's like, no, I'm on YouTube. Don't worry, I'm a vlogger. Yeah, I got
Want some
credibility.
candy?
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
yeah. It's like she's like, because she's looking at me like, how does my son know who you are?
Yeah.
And I was
Are
like,
you Big Bird?
Yeah.
Why are you?
So anyway, so that was when we met that was after. Now I remember we were sitting there outside that coffee shop, and actually by that time I was actually thinking of shutting the channel down. I was just
Really?
thinking, yeah. And I remember I was like that close to just basically doing the video to say I'll leave the videos up, but sayonara, so long, adios, auf Wiedersehen. It's been fun.
What was
You
the
know,
reasoning behind that? I mean, were you just sick of
well,
trolls?
no,
Or-
I never planned on starting a channel.
Okay.
And see, like in a way, I kind of envy all the guys that don't start a channel, who
Oh,
get to
yeah.
they just come into the Philippines and they make mistakes and they date this person. It doesn't work out, so they date that person. Nobody makes a big fuss or drama about it. I mean, that's
Right.
life.
Yep.
That's dating in California. You date somebody for 2 months or 2 weeks,
Move
and then
on.
you date. Yeah,
Yeah.
But when you're in the Philippines and you're a vlogger, it's like, oh my God, he broke up with so and so.
Yeah.
What an evil bastard.
Sure.
And it was just that kind of weighs on you,
Yeah,
and then you kind of feel like I started feeling, especially in Dumageddon, just I mean it's great, and everybody I've met in person has always been really a cool person to talk to.
Right.
But you just imagine, like kind of like if you were to show up at a wedding and you couldn't find your dress shoes and you're wearing your sneakers, you just know everybody's looking at you.
You're right. Yeah.
It's the same kind of feeling. It's like it's just like, so there you are, you're eating, and it's like, and then you get your food on your shirt.
Someone takes a picture.
Yeah, and it's like,
Sloppy REEKAY throws up on himself. Yeah,
has an eating disorder.
Exactly.
You spill some water. Oh, you got a drinking problem.
Yeah, right. You're an alcoholic.
And so so the thing is, it's like I was feeling the weight of it all, just feeling like I was always in a spot, like always being watched.
Right.
And it was a hard thing for me to adjust to. And I finally just thought, maybe there's some, I don't know, fortuitous, I don't know what you would want to call it. Just, I don't know. Maybe it's just meant to happen. Maybe because I didn't make any of this happen. I just ended up literally tripping into the whole thing. And I thought, well, if I can do some good, if I can keep guys from losing their money or getting a broken heart or, getting stranded in a foreign land on their way to the Philippines, if I can help some guys, then I'll do it. I'll continue to help guys, and that's what's kept me going through with the channel, is trying to advise guys and help them and don't do this. And a lot of it is common sense, but sometimes some guys really need to hear it like explained, because the proof in the pudding is that there's a guy that I just saw his post yesterday. Some guy showed up in Mandawi and he's posting on one of the expat groups. Anybody know where I can find a job? Dude,
because I'm dying to make $10 a day, bro.
Yeah, well, that's if he's an attorney or something. But
exactly.
But no, it's like obviously this guy did not do his homework. So I'm like, no, there's a lot of work out there still to be done. A lot of people that still needs some guidance.
So what's it? But to be fair, okay. So when you were having this, because I mean, I started a channel, right, and I was doing stuff, and I tell you, one of the things I believe that kept the number of subs in my thing so low is because the name of my channel is "Live My Ass Off." And I didn't think about it much, but remember when like you guys were making decent money? Like some of you guys were making like $4 or $5 grand a month, and you got like 12,000 subscribers, right? Then YouTube all of a sudden freaks out, cracks down, right? So I would like literally be on a live stream and I would post something like, "Hey man, how you doing?" And I would be grayed out because the word ass is in my, chat.
Yeah, your username. Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm thinking to myself, well, this is completely bizarre. So then I look at it, and of course, my ego's bruised. And now I just look, I've got like a couple of thousand subscribers. and I friggin' love it.
Mhm.
Because, I mean, I don't want to go deep into it, but you and several, Rob, right? He's also a friend of ours. He's at
Yeah.
like 50 or 60,000 subs, and then these other guys with 100,000. And yeah, and I mean, if you think about it, on YouTube, if you have less than 100,000 subscribers, you're basically just having a hobby,
Yeah,
right?
it's just like a paying hobby.
But these
Yeah.
guys that have, I mean, the visibility, and it seems like, although I will say, it seems like the level of trollness has decreased significantly, both in the Philippines and in Thailand. But I would submit that the people that are trolls in the Philippines are infinitely more aggressive. I don't know what the delta is between there and Thailand, but it seems to have decreased at least. Now, your channel recently has gone through a bit of a metamorphosis, and not just because you're back in California, right? I mean, have you had different thoughts like the ones you were saying, or is it just that all over?
Yeah, there's getting I don't want to spend too much time on the whole troll thing, but I do
Yeah,
agree.
no, I agree.
It's been it used to be Thailand had the ones that were like the most mentally deranged,
Right.
and then but Philippines lately, ever since they reopened up in February, I've noticed that there's been one or two incidents now where it's like gotten to the point of physical violence where one went out looking, and that's the other thing. Lately, they've been attacking each other, which is a
Physically
nice,
attacking each other.
yeah, physically attacking each other, and so it's gotten weirder.
Yeah.
Now, as far as changes to my channel, I did announce about 7 months ago, right around, actually, I think it was around January. I did make an announcement. First, I made a private, message to the vloggers that I know. I know quite a few, and I told them, I said, I'm just sort of going to start pulling back. I said, you guys run with the ball. You guys carry it.
Yep.
I feel like I've done my part for 9 years almost. I said, I want to, yeah. And I was like, I'm just going to start pulling back. No more. Because I used to do like a video every 48 hours for years. Every 48 hours, I was like cranking out a video. And and I told her, and I thought about it, and I thought, well, I don't want to shut the channel down, but I think I'm just going to do maybe one a week. That's 4 a month. Maybe 6 in a month. More based on I really have something to say, or I really feel like doing it. I want to stay connected with all the loyal subscribers that have been there all these years. So it's more now. I guess it's not the central place in my life that it was, during those first 7 years. I still enjoy it.
Is the content still like, hey guys, important safety tip. Like when you come to the Philippines, don't do this. Don't come over here thinking you're going to get a job, blah, 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 the kind of thing. Is it still that? I mean, you're refreshing a lot of content, like you say, that is still really relevant.
Yeah. Some of it, like there's these different, sometimes Gio and I will all joke that there's really only 20 videos you ever do. You just kind of
yeah.
Yeah. But my goal from the beginning, and if you look back on it, you'll see my goal has always been, once there was new vloggers, in town, my thought was, I want to do a video nobody has ever talked about. Nobody, like, I was the first one to do a video about Tampo, and then all of a sudden everybody else started, jumping on it.
No doubt.
I just did a video that I just re-uploaded, and I did that one like 6 years ago, about the whole difference that people think the Philippines is this conservative Catholic, family-oriented country, and then you get there, and then there's gays and lesbians and transgenders like all over the place, and nobody had addressed that before. Nobody had addressed the long-term effect of being an expat away from your family back in the homeland. Nobody had ever talked about that. I mean, there's all these subjects that I was the first one to talk about stepdads and about child support and all kinds of stuff. So that's been my goal, and it still is my goal. There's certain things that, everybody wants to know. Like I've only done 4 budget videos. I'm like, why do one every month?
Default setting. It is. Well, here's what we spent this month: 1,117. Okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
and here's last month, 1,112.
Right,
So,
exactly. Oh, geez, I'm all over the place. Yeah, I just wanted to make the comment. I shared the tampon, the tampon
Tempo.
video, the tampo video, because a lot of guys are going to hear that word and somebody like, what? I mean, they follow you, they probably know about it, but I
Yeah.
would also say that, like, my experience is that the number of trolls potentially is decreasing, but like it's apparently your experience is certainly in the Philippines it's getting more physical. But the level
Mhm.
of tampo, I mean, I have not experienced that for at least 5 years. Now,
Mhm.
do you still see it happening?
Well, I think there's, and I did a video about this, that the Philippines, as it was for a lot of the military guys
Mm-hmm.
who got there, say pre 1990,
Yeah.
that was a whole other Philippines where you could just show up and things were not that sophisticated,
Yeah.
not on infrastructure and not on dating. It was
Not
very
everyone had
simple
a
and
cell phone.
straightforward. Right. And so now, and I predicted this 2 years before it happened. I was like, the smartphone is going to change everything, and
Oh
it
yeah.
did.
Of course.
Soon as not only every Filipino had a smartphone, but the Globe and PLDT made the data plans more affordable.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it exploded everything.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and a lot of guys kind of blow it out too much, and they say, "Oh, they're all getting westernized." Well, it's not like that bad.
No.
But getting back to the Tompo thing, word has gotten around. Foreigners don't like that Tompo thing.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's a cultural thing when they're dating Filipinos, but yeah, we're just not having it. We're just like, okay, that just screams insecurity and childishness.
It's up there with
And
jealousy. We're just like,
yeah, it's
so I
like
got no
I can
use
I
for
can live
this.
without that. I can go
Yeah.
find, and so what they have slowly been learning, Filipinas, is that we do not respond like a Filipino guy.
Right.
Filipino guys, when they get the tampo, the Filipino guys respond with what's called lambing, which is basically kiss their ass until they're happy again.
Yeah, exactly
Bring them
right.
flowers and
Sure.
make them laugh and
Mm-hmm.
and there's some expats who heard that and they're like, well, then I'll just do the same thing, But to me, again, to my Western analytical mind, it's
I
like,
guess,
why
yeah.
would I reward bad behavior? So I'm just like, okay, either this is not going to be a part of our relationship or there's going to be no relationship, and I've held firm with that. And so the great thing is that, like, in my relationship with V, I think in 3 years we've had 15 minutes of Tompo if you were to add it all together.
Yeah, right, sure. Yeah. But do you like notice it and say, look, don't do this?
Yeah.
I do the same thing. I'm like, that doesn't work for me. Like, I'm literally
everything stops.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't
Right,
care
exactly.
if dinner's cooking, we turn it off. It's
Right.
TV's on, it goes on. No. It's like, just tell me it's okay. I'm not going to freak out. Just tell me what's going on.
But I think that's a more, I don't know, I want to say Western, but let's just say for the sake of argument, you and I agree on this, because like when bad behavior, regardless, like when I was managing a team, when someone would be like that, I'd be like, okay, we're going to address this right now because this is absolutely putting a monkey wrench in, and we're going to talk about it directly.
Yeah.
Which, again, they don't have a similar, they don't have a behavior that mimics that in Thailand. But there are definitely, just, let's just not talk about it. Let's just not talk about the fact that, he's got a mistress, and he's trying to get some money out of me. As long as we don't talk about it, it doesn't exist. Whereas, we're just like, okay, I got 5 minutes. Let's address this. Let's deal with it, and let's move on. And I may even yell at you publicly in a parking lot, and then afterwards, you and I are going to hug it out, and we're going to go get a smoothie.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way in Thailand.
It's a very alien concept. But here's the good news: is that through the power of the internet,
right, people are
more and more Filipinas are figuring out, foreigners don't go for this whole Tompo thing. It just doesn't fly. They're going to move on to some other Filipina. Oh my gosh, I better stop the Tompo.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
So it's progressing. It's changing.
But again, I think, like you said, the power of because it is so ubiquitous. Like Gracie's daughter, my daughter, she can now get. I don't know if you know where. Well, of course you know where Boracay is, and so you know where Kalibo is. You know where Iloilo is. Okay, so and you probably know where Hamandan is. Okay, So that's where,
No, that
right. So, okay. So you got Kalibo up here, Ilo down the bottom, right?
Oh, okay.
So basically right in the middle-ish is like Hamandan. Rojas is also
Okay.
near
Oh,
there.
Rojas.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rojas, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and we're in the middle of nowhere, big time. And I open up and there's 5G. Okay. In the Philippines. Now, again, it's 5G in the Philippines, which means it's a whole 20 megabits a second. And I'm like,
right.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But it's fairly reliable in the sense that like the water's reliable, the electricity is reliable.
Yeah.
So her daughter, and now like before it was like, oh, I don't have load, right? I can't afford it, or it's too expensive. It's like, and now like a full month of like effectively unlimited data, right? Is acceptable. It's like, this is what I want to do. And one of the things that I've been teaching Euris is she would ask me questions, and I'm like honored and I want to answer it. And I said, I want you to default to this. Google everything. Because if you want to know the population of Indonesia, trust me, they got that.
Yeah.
And there's going to be multiple. And so what I'm hoping is that she kind of gets into and sure enough, she is, right? And so she's like struggling with math, like Pythagorean, like what is, and so she goes. So I think that part of it is really good. And what I want to do, actually, because this just caught my eye, this question here.
Yeah.
Digital nomads as prevalent in the Philippines as they are in Thailand. And I can kind of understand what Patrick is going about, because of course there's the area in Thailand, if you probably heard of it, Chiang Mai, right?
Yeah.
A lot of, and obviously there's Bangkok, which is an international city and everything happens there. You can even get decent pizza in friggin' Bangkok.
Wow.
Which you can't do in Manila, I've discovered, which is but yeah, so what's been your experience? 'Cause, I mean, you were in IT Park, right? And one could argue, like, if there's going to be digital nomads, they're living next door to REEKAY. What was your experience there with that?
I've seen a big change, big change. Like back when I was, going back to 2014, and I was just getting ready to leave Bohol. I was always running into expats, and they were always usually older than me. I was only like 49, 50 at the time. And I was always running into expats older than me. And then one day I'm there at Bohol Mall, and I run into this expat, and he's like 20, 25 years old, So we started talking. Yeah. Right. And I asked him, I go, well, how can you afford to be, out here, living out here? And he said that he was writing apps, and he had written like 50 different apps, and 3 of them made enough money to pay all his expenses, and that was my first bump. Now, what made him stand out, he was like the only guy like that I met for years. But then in the last,
and this is, I'm sorry, where in Bohol?
I was in Bohol. Yeah. And they're in Tagbilaran. And, well, bigger city, and, which is a popular stop-off point,
sure.
But now it wasn't until like, say, starting 3-4 years ago that all of a sudden I started seeing more and more guys like under their mid 30s, like in their late 20s, mid 30s. And they were digital nomads, and, and usually around Cebu and the places that still, that had good internet.
Yeah.
And then now in this last year from California, I kind of keep tabs on the trends with what's going on with Philippine bloggers. And what I've noticed is that up until maybe a year ago, most of the Philippine vloggers were guys like our age, over 50, going out there and near retirement, retired early, whatever. But now in the last year, the trend has gone over to these younger digital nomads who are, some of them are couples, like power couples, and then single guys, and they're blowing through the roof. I mean, these guys have like 100 to 200,000 subs. They put out a video, and they've got 80,000 views in like 4 hours.
That is true, isn't it? Yeah, the newer ones, they're getting a lot.
Yeah, and what I think happened is getting a visa became so unpredictable for the backpacker digital nomad in Thailand. They all, once Philippines opened up, they all migrated over to Philippines, and now they're showing up in Vietnam as well. There's a lot. Look at the Vietnam vloggers now. There's a ton of them. Big time. Back when I was there was like 3, me and like 2 other guys,
Right.
So there has been, and this is something that, like I worked for Abbott Corporation for 21 years. you see these inevitable metamorphous changes that are unstoppable.
Right.
And I never expected things to stay the same. I never expected to stay on top. I knew things were going to change. And if I learned anything in all those years, it's don't fight it. Just
Yeah. Right.
get to the acceptance phase,
Sure.
accept it, embrace it, and move forward.
So as you sort of have your life now pretty much set in the U.S., and gratefully your mom is in good health. That's very awesome.
She's doing really good. I came here because she was not doing so good.
Sure.
But like within 2 months of me getting back, she bounced back. So she's been doing great.
That's awesome,
she's out
man.
out in the yard and all that. Yeah,
Well, I
doing
heard
good.
some pounding. I was wondering whether she was either like pounding a steak or saying, "REEKAY, let me in your room."
Oh no, I'm actually here in the dining area, and so the kitchen is like behind the camera. The kitchen. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
So, dude, clearly you've lost weight.
Yeah.
And I've seen your diet posts on, that sort of thing. Because I don't know about you, but the food in the Philippines is not stellar. I'm just going to throw that out there. That's my experience.
No.
A lot of fat sometimes. Now you can
Sugar,
find
carbs.
sugar, carb, and you can find some stuff. But I mean, again, is that improving? Like when you're in Cebu, like when you're in Bangkok, you can literally get the best Thai food on the street for like $1, but you can also get an amazing pizza or an amazing steak or whatever. Cebu, IT Park, upper middle class for sure. Is that improving there?
No.
Really? So they're not
Okay.
taking. But now it's COVID. I get it. So maybe they were like, no, screw it, dude. We
Well,
don't
like there was what there was, the gamut of franchise foods and whatever, and Filipino restaurants. There was what there was pre-COVID.
Okay.
Now there's less. A lot of those places shut down.
They're not back yet.
Yeah, they haven't bounced back, and some of the franchises made judicial decisions and said, well, it's just not worth the outlay for the few customers we're going to get, and they're going to wait till things are more open, and that's understandable. And so there's actually less choices now,
Wow.
Like for instance, when I was in Vietnam, it was similar to Thailand. I have to really credit my buddy Jason. He knows where to find the good food. And he found in Saigon a place that had like homemade mac and cheese, which is more his favorite. Like homemade mac and cheese, not the stuff out of the box, but he'll eat that too.
Yeah.
But he found the really good Mexican places for us. He found the Union Jacks, which you go in there. I did a video there. When you're in Union Jacks in Saigon, it's like you're in a fish and chips place in the UK. The guys from the UK. It's decorated the same way. It's got stuff on the menu that I've never seen before. Like I don't know, like spotted dick and all kinds of weird stuff. I don't know how I guess it's
is that a Freudian thing, or do we need to just kind of cut that?
I don't know. But they've got like for instance with the malts that go with the fish and chips, and it's so delicious. They've got like 4 different types of malts and vinegars to put with the fish and chips. I didn't know you could do. I just dunked it in tartar sauce.
There's
and so
smother in ketchup.
Yeah, and so in Vietnam you had, like you said, places where you could get homemade great food. But in the Philippines, again, it's like you've got the franchises where you can get good food, like TGI Fridays or Shakey's, Pizza Hut. It's the same as it is in the States,
Pretty much.
And then you kind of drop one down, and then you got like the McDonald's, the KFC, and,
Wendy's.
Wendy's, and then you drop down a little further, and now you're looking at Chowking and Jollibee, and then you drop down a little further, and you got pizza in a box heated up in a microwave there on a little kiosk.
I'll tell you what really bums me out is that their street food is basically either untrustworthy or not tasty. Yeah. And Gracie and I, we were in Mactan. And I think we were there for like 4 nights, and 2 nights, or one of those 2 nights I spent on the toilet. The other one was like us going to the hospital, which is a brand new one there, which is kind of neat. But I mean, it's really, she was like, this is a drag. Like, you can't just like walk down, they call it a canteen, right?
Yeah.
And you can't just like, oh yeah, definitely. Whereas, in Thailand, my experience is like, first of all, if there's a 7-Eleven, there's someone making barbecue chicken in front of it, which is freaking spectacular. I mean, it is just really, I mean, I'm not saying it's going to help me lose 20 pounds, but I can trust it, which is crazy. There's not, like in California, right? You guys have the signs where it's like A for the.
Yeah.
You ever been in a restaurant that has a B?
Oh, I've been in ones that had a C.
Are you sure? I went into a restaurant one time and they had a B, and I'm like, are you insane? Like, why don't you just close?
I know.
I mean, there's
just
Mexicans everywhere. Have them clean up, dude, and then you get back to an A because
just
no one's
everything.
buying these.
Yeah.
It's just, get an insurance claim, for God's sake. But that's just like crazy. So, okay, so you Vietnam over there.
Yeah,
Vietnam. I've been to the Philippines. I've been to Vietnam. We both had that kind of experience. Thailand. When are you coming to? I mean, selfishly, when are you coming to Thailand? But I mean, and I wanted to say, you mentioned Jason. So Jason's channel, I just put a quick. You said a quick below. Asia Unscripted. Jason is currently in Vietnam, and I think you saw our selfie that we took.
I did.
He flies over to Bangkok to buy an iPhone because it's cheaper for him to fly to Bangkok, stay in a hotel, have bagels with me, and then go buy an iPhone and then fly back than it would be to buy the silly thing in Vietnam.
Right.
And I'm thinking, but the cool part, right? He's vaccinated in and out. Bam. And, so that was pretty cool. So travel is there. Yeah. So, I mean, or are you just like, no, dude, I'm focused on getting back to friggin' V. And then from there, we'll figure it out. Or do you have like a...
Well, we have a general plan. First thing is I got to finish up my medical stuff that I'll go into later when it's all resolved and everything.
Yeah.
And then once I get back with V in Philippines, then we have to get her passport. So that's one thing. And then in order for her I would like for her to visit my mom at least once. Then we've got to get the spousal visa approved after the passport. So we're looking at some time there.
Joy, that's gonna. Geez,
and with the DFA backlogged,
God.
It's going to be a drag before we can get over to Thailand. Because I want to take her to Thailand. I want to take her to Vietnam. I want to show her all the places that I saw in Vietnam.
So I'll give you some recommendations offline on how to basically leapfrog that bullshit they have at the DFA. The short answer is that from the Hamandan, we had to make an appointment. Gracie and her daughter, they had to fly up to Manila, get some stuff, and of course it's the Philippines. So therefore, they ask, what do we need? They bring everything that person says they need. They get there, they don't have everything according to the same person.
Yeah.
So they fly back down to Hamandan and then back. And so please learn from my mistake. You'll only need to go there once.
Cool.
But boy, I mean, it is. And that's the thing, and I know you are totally pro-Philippines, and that's awesome. I am pro-Filipinos.
Yeah.
But, man, their leaders, as far as I'm concerned, do not take care of their citizens, and it just drives me crazy.
Yeah.
And,
again, like you said, I mean, I love the Philippines. I mean, as I've always said, if I ever felt unsafe or unhappy in the Philippines, I'd leave. To me, it's that simple.
Right.
But, so I weigh out all the pros and cons, and for me, anyways, again, there's no cookie cutter answer.
Sure,
but for me, the social aspect, the relaxing vibe that I have when I'm there, I always ask, why can't I be as relaxed in California as I am in the Philippines?
Right.
But the overall, I'm very happy with the Philippines. Now, that doesn't mean I have rose-colored glasses and I ignore all the deficits. We were talking about food. There are certain dishes I love. I mean, I love pork sinigang. It's one of my favorites. I love tinola soup that V makes from the chicken bones. She makes this wonderful soup from chicken bones. And I mean, there's certain dishes I like because they fit with my keto diet. It's basically meat, vegetables, maybe soup, but then many of the dishes, it's got vegetable oil, which doesn't work for me. It's got
Okay.
pasta, which doesn't work for me. Very small, kind of like vegetables done like a sprinkling, more of a
Yeah.
garnish. You know,
Right. Yeah. Right. You're
you
like,
know, just
I like vegetables. Please add some. Yeah.
mostly it's for the color, I think. Like the pasta,
Right.
it's like just to add a little red and green here and there.
Yeah.
And it's either got oils, vegetable oils, or it's got pasta, or it's got sugar. Everybody's knows about the infamous spaghetti sauce. Just super sweet.
Super
Uh,
sweet. It's
you
great,
know,
and it's in a bag, basically.
it's
Of
ba-
like, it
well,
is so sweet. I
when you
mean,
go to Jollibee and you
oh
get the
God,
spaghetti with the chopped hot dogs and the sugar,
yes,
for those who have never been to the Philippines, it's basically a hot dessert. It,
yeah,
it's
it is.
it's like a sundae that's hot and you
Right.
eat it with a fork.
Yeah. No, the red sauce. Don't be confused that it's tomatoes. Trust
Yeah,
me. It's yeah.
yeah,
It is high fructose corn syrup. It is basically strawberry jelly.
yeah, and you would think it would be good, but anyways,
In theory,
and
yeah.
I know, and then so there a lot of the dishes, even if you have them homemade,
Mm-hmm.
they just don't fit with my keto diet.
Yeah.
And so and now the fortunate thing again, I just hit the jackpot when I met V, and then I had to go back to Vietnam, and we started chatting every day.
Mm-hmm.
One of the first things that I discovered is that she is just totally into. Oh,
Hey,
okay.
mom.
That's my mom. Let me see if I can get her. There she
Now you
goes.
gotta unblur, baby. You gotta unblur.
Hell yeah. So, anyways, so one of the great things was that I discovered with V is she really doesn't like to eat much rice. She cooks it every day for her mom and dad, but she eats this thing called corn rice. But she doesn't like eating too much of it. And then she had her own garden because she
Oh,
likes eating vegetables every single day.
huh.
And then she'll eat whatever lean meat, chicken, fish.
Right.
So when I told her this year, I'm changing my complete diet, I'm doing this whole keto thing,
Right.
she's been so supportive.
Yeah.
She's like, you just tell me what's on the good list and bad list. She goes, I'll just cook you whatever. I go, meat, vegetables. That's
Is
pretty
that
much it.
okay?
Meat,
No
vegetables.
carbs or low carbs.
Right. No,
You're just
I
focusing.
try to avoid the carbs.
Yeah.
Now, I cheat once in a while. Every once in a while, I'll have like, there's these blueberry muffins that are like literally an inch square.
Mm-hmm.
That's my big treat for the month.
Right.
Uh, and even fruit. I told her I'm going to keep fruit to a minimum.
Because of the
Um,
sugar.
yeah, I go basically I'll eat all the meat and vegetables we can cook. And
Yeah.
we both love. One of our favorite things to make is we get everything ready on the table and we make our own spring rolls. You know, because the rice paper thing, it doesn't have much volume to it.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
mostly meat and vegetables on the inside.
Uh-huh.
Then we put kimchi, and each one we make is different. It's kind of a fun
Nice.
thing we do, like fondue or something. But so
See,
I've
with
been.
me and Gracie, I do a very similar thing, with the exception of she puts all the stuff out on the counter and then she
Mhm.
cooks it, and I sit there and eat it, and I tell her how much I appreciate it.
There you go.
And I don't know whether it was a leadership move years ago, but I'm like, I am going to outsource everything that I suck at, and food is absolutely not. Let me just address this one thing
Yeah,
quickly. So,
yeah.
because Dan said, Mike, share your tips, and I hate when I did this. I did it unintentionally, Dan, and I apologize. I didn't mean to like throw some clickbait out there and say, well, I tell you what, if you want to get my drop shipping class, then I can really teach you how to. The short answer on the DFA process, Dan, is, well, first of all, I'm going to assume that you are physically in the Philippines and you are attempting to get a Filipina or Filipino a passport. Okay, so that was specifically what I'm talking about. And the short answer is that no matter where you are, you need to pretty much resign yourself to the fact that you are going to go to whatever city you can get an appointment in. For us, that was coming from Hamandan into Manila. And the DFA in Iloilo is not that great. And you're going to have a lot of backlog in some other ones. And so the short answer is that on the website, you're going to be able to make appointments. Unfortunately, you're going to have to check that like every single day. But speeding up the DFA process is simply do not resign yourself to, I'm going to go to the one closest to me. No, you're going to go to the one where you can get an appointment, get on a plane. It's an AirAsia flight back and forth. It's simple. Have 3 copies of everything that they say you need 2 copies of. And I think the big challenge, and correct me if I'm wrong, REEKAY, the big challenge is that a lot of times you have an original document of something, but it looks so pristine that they don't believe it's original because it's not wrinkled and soiled. And so they're like, well, you need to bring the original back. And you're like, here's another thing. And to that point, if you're making copies of everything, make black and white copies. Because the minute you use a good copier that's a color copier, and all of a sudden your, what is it called? Barangay clearance? Is that sort of like, that's like the, you haven't committed any crimes piece of paper?
Yeah.
It's going to be like, is that the one that's like, it's got yellow, right, in the background? So you do a color copy of that, and they're like, oh, well, which one of these? Maybe it's, So, yeah. But the other thing, too, I will say, Dan, do not hire somebody to do any of this. REEKAY can totally disagree. But in my experience, every time we've hired someone to assist us with anything in the Philippines, it goes worse. So I don't know, but
actually, okay, like I have recommended a guy, in fact, Mike, a different Mike, over there in Ayala Mall, and now he's been stellar on anything I've ever asked him to do, and he's taken good care of people that I've sent there. But now post-COVID, with the DFA being behind, he's told me, he goes, well, it's so much more difficult to get things done from a distance. So yeah, I would agree. If you're going to do something, just go there, go to the horse's mouth, go to Manila, do it yourself.
I remember now you gave me his contact info. I sent him an email and I'm like, here's what we're trying to do. And he was very gracious. He's like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
He goes, I wish I could do that 2.5 years ago. It'd be like next. But yeah. So, but again, Dan, I don't know what you're trying to do. But I'll just say, for the sake of argument, for passport, then yeah, it's probably the way to go. Now, the other thing is that, Thailand is back to being open again, right? You don't need to have a whole lot of documentation, and depending upon the visa you have, you don't really need to do this Thailand pass or anything. When Gracie and I went back to the Philippines, we arrived on like February 1st or February 2nd, which was when, if you were married, you no longer needed to quarantine. And then I believe about 2.5 weeks later, you didn't have to be married to a Filipina, and you could get in with like no quarantining kind of stuff. But you had to have all these tests. I don't know the status. What's the status right now as far as like you and me, average person, getting his U.S. passport, heading to Los Angeles, blam, shows up in Manila. What's going to happen?
Well, it's interesting you should ask that, because there's been a very subtle change under the radar. Now, for the general knowledge, basically, if you're not vaccinated, you're going to have a tough time getting back in the Philippines. That's the basic starting point.
Define tough time. In other words, you just going to have to quarantine for 2 weeks and it'll suck, or can you not?
Well, like for instance, any airports, because there are more than just Manila and Cebu for international airports. Not many, but for any entry into the Philippines, they're going to want you to be vaccinated, with the exception of, now, I want people to really listen to what I'm not saying as well as what I am saying.
Fair enough.
I have been in contact in PM for the last week with a longtime viewer of mine. And now here's his situation. He's an American. He's married to a Filipina, and they were in the States and had their 2 kids. I believe it was 2. And he told me last week, he said, well, I'm not vaccinated, but my wife, my Filipina wife, and I are going to fly through Cebu, Cebu Airport. And we're going to do a quarantine and we're good to go. I can enter in unvaccinated with my wife. And so I was like, okay, keep me posted. I hope this works. Well, next thing I know, he's messaging me from Sita Hotel right there in Cebu. And he told me the process, and he said, yeah, they recognized he was unvaxxed. They did a 5-day quarantine. I think they're done with it now. And so it did work. Now, here's the thing we don't know. I asked him to, and he was willing to talk to the staff there in the quarantine hotel, or the COVID hotel, as I call it. And the staff told him that they have seen other single expats coming in through Cebu in the quarantine hotel, unvaxxed, getting into the Philippines. So they say it is happening. Now, what strikes me as strange is this is not being plastered all over the Philippine news. It's not being expounded upon by
come on in. We're open. Anybody with
Now, I have my own theory. I believe that Gwen Garcia, who is a wonderful woman, my hat's off to this woman. She has brought a lot of sound reasoning to this whole table about COVID. She has been, pointing out in the law that the IATF only had 6 months worth of jurisdiction to set quarantines.
Okay.
So she's now, here's the problem though. It's kind of like, here she is, governor of Cebu, bucking up against the Manila system,
the federal.
Yeah, I mean, basically the mayors and everybody else are more willing to listen to. Hold on, I got somebody here at the.
No worries. REEKAY is going to go deal and make sure that his mom can still make dinner. But I did want to shout out a really good friend of mine, as well as a channel that I highly recommend that you subscribe to, which is Walking in My Shoes Thailand. The guy's name is Robbie. He's actually from Pismo Beach, California, and he's going to be coming back to Thailand very shortly. And so obviously he's checked out the status of Thailand, and so he will be going there Tuesday. So I just wanted to throw this comment up there about the status of Thailand. But let's continue. Well, and do you need to go make dinner with mom? Or are you
no. Actually, it was my aunt.
Right on. Cool.
And again, it's like it'll be like quiet as a church mouse here, and then of course if I go live, now it's Grand Central Station.
Yeah.
Anyways,
way too much love. You have what's called a quality problem, and this is the smallest violin ever, my friend.
Yeah,
you are living the dream. Okay, so people coming into the Philippines, are we going to go with, if you are single and you're going through Manila?
It's not going to work.
Our belief is you're not going to get.
Not going to get in
if you're unvaccinated.
Right.
If you're vaccinated, you can stamp in, right?
Yeah.
15 days, bam. Okay.
Yeah. Now, if you go through Cebu again, all the information I just gave you, it's pretty much firsthand, but it's still anecdotal. There's nothing I can point at from anything in the newspaper, nothing declared by the IATF. So this avenue is there, but for some reason it's on the hush hush.
Well, I can tell you that when Gracie and I entered, and again, it was like we were coming in on, I think it was like February 1st, if not February 2nd. Bottom line was, it was the day that they said you can come into the Philippines if you're married, if you're vaccinated, and you don't need a quarantine. Like literally a week before that, we had a quarantine hotel. We even had our marriage and all this. Now, when we got there, the guy at immigration, they didn't ask for proof of vaccination. Okay. So, I mean, I guess you could lie, but that might bite you in the ass. So I don't recommend that.
Yeah.
But he just said, well, are you married? And honey, when we entered the Philippines in February, did we need to show them proof that we were married, or did you just ask us and we said yes? They just asked us? Yeah. So he trusted us. And just so, I mean, I don't know if you guys know this. I'm sure you know this. But the people watching, if you're married to a Filipina and you basically enter visa exempt, bam, you're there for a year. I had no idea that Delta went from 59 days to a year just by sucking it up and getting married to a Filipina.
That's all you got to do. Yeah,
I mean, it's no big whoops. I mean, because, divorce is, no, but I mean, so one could argue that your friend had that experience. I mean, again, we're not saying he's lying. He could have gone through this and to that point, like we were supposed to be fully vaccinated to come into the United States on June 21st. And I'm, global entry. And so I just I do the 4 fingers and they give me a receipt and I'm in the United States in 60 seconds. And the guy, I hand him the thing. He's like, welcome home. And then with Gracie, they have enough data on her that she's been in and out and that she's also been to Boston, left Boston, been to California, left California. Okay, she's playing by the rules. She doesn't come in for 6 months and leave at 5 months and 29 days and 13 hours.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, they didn't ask her for a vaccination card either.
Mm.
So maybe it's the fact that it's just lessening. Or do you know for a fact that your friend, they asked him his vaccination status at Cebu?
No, he was very candid with them
Forthcoming?
when they walked. Yeah, forthcoming. When he went to immigration, he said, "I am not vaccinated, but this is my
Mm.
wife." And they
Mhm.
said, "Oh, okay, we'll just sit over here." And they arranged a shuttle to pick him up, from the hotel, and it was no big deal. It wasn't like a big cloud of mystery. And okay, fine. It was like that was the protocol.
No testing?
No, they have to test like before they leave the quarantine.
Okay, hold on. The quarantine. So how long was the quarantine at this hotel
For
in this?
5 days. And
Oh,
then and
okay.
then and then they also, of course, which is the default, they had to have a negative test to get on the plane to even board.
Ye-
But
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
then they needed a negative test. So basically, two tests involved: one to board and one to leave the quarantine
And this was
hotel.
recently.
This was literally 2 days ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know to come into the United States, we did not have to do tests.
Yeah, that got
Um,
dropped. Yeah, that got
yeah,
dropped.
like about a week before we were coming, which was awesome.
Mm.
But I mean, obviously, as you might guess, this as well as our illustrious dating careers are incredibly important to people in the comments.
Mhm.
But I did want to double click on this from CJ.
Mhm.
Just came back into Vietnam from Thailand. I would say Vietnam is the best, easiest country to enter. I feel back home again. Just ask for it. Just ask for insurance and COVID vax or any hassle. As far as I know, we didn't have to have insurance to enter the Philippines, and I don't believe
No.
we needed to enter Thailand any longer. Okay, so that's not a requirement for the
Yeah,
Philippines, right?
insurance requirement for Philippines got dropped, I believe, 2 months ago.
Okay, all right. Let me see about this. Awesome info about Cebu. If I was in Thailand, I think it's worth risking, a ticket from Thailand to get in, but I wouldn't risk losing $1,200 ticket from the USA. Now, and so by that, JJ, I'm curious, do you mean that basically you would get a ticket, you would show up at the airport and just kind of like cross your fingers and then make it all the way to, or are you saying, because I mean, if that's the case, you can just get a refundable one, right? But I assume that you mean like risking the $1,200, meaning you show up in Cebu and they're not going to kick you out, right? Worst case scenario, you're in a hotel for 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like the worst, right? I mean, that's
well. There's the possibility that you get there, and then they say, well, no entry. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here, kind of thing. So I think he's referring to the $1,200 ticket, somebody flying in from, say, United States.
From the U.S. Yeah. No, totally.
But
well, that's
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, it's again, I just find it kind of curious that they're not really, you would think Department of Tourism would be, all over this, saying, hey, come on in, spend your money.
Well, it's funny because we say that too. A lot of people that go to Thailand, they're like, oh my God, the tourism industry is completely decimated. They've lost 20% of their GDP for the last, whatever. And then, the fact that Thailand's like, oh my God, tourism's back open. We had 10,000 people come into Phuket this month. And it's like, so in 2019 it was 25 million, right?
Yeah.
So that's slow. I remember you doing a live stream. I'm going to guess from, I think you were living in Cebu, and people were like, "Hey, what do you think? You're living there, boots on the ground." You realistically said it's going to be 2 years, guys. I mean, they're knee deep in this forest, and you got to like come back out. So as far as like you just like using your passport, cruising over to the Philippines, what do you think? You think basically it's going to be there by high season, which is effectively November?
Yeah. For all the airports, I don't see it happening. Cebu, that's the only chance I see of getting in non-vax.
Why Cebu? Because
Governor Gwen is again being very progressive about this.
Okay.
Yeah. And that falls within her jurisdiction because she's governor for the whole island of Cebu, not just Cebu City.
Okay.
They have mayors, and again, it comes back to the mayors seem to be willing more to listen to the IATF than to her, referring to the law that restricts the IATF. So there's like a disconnect, somewhere in there.
Because one could argue if they're sitting there and they're like, look, dude, we need some revenue. We got to open up Boracay.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, who the hell goes? I mean, I get it, Mactan. There's some resorts and stuff. But let's face it, dude, the delta of quality of beach between White Beach, the west side of Boracay, and even like a decent beach in Mactan, it's like night and
Totally.
day, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well, right now you can't even get the ferry, which is a requirement. You can't get on the ferry to Boracay, and I hear also Palawan without showing a Vax card. So if you're not vaxxed, here's the other thing is, so let's say you get into the Philippines and you're non-vaxxed.
yeah.
Me,
Oh, right.
Jason, and Gio were talking about this the other
Then what?
night.
Yeah.
Is like, okay, some places you can, like, here's the weird thing. Cebu Pacific fortunately made a statement about a month or so ago and said we're dropping any requirements. Just get on the plane and fly where you want. But the ferry system, they decided, well, no, we're gonna. Some of us are gonna require a Vax card, some of us aren't. Same thing with the malls. Some cities, the malls, you can't get in without a Vax card. The other ones, they're like, no, we need the business, just come on in. So you're gonna have to navigate. Oh, and then the condos. Most of the condos, which fall under the Airbnb listings, won't let you in without a Vax card. So you're in the Philippines unvaxxed, but your movement, you're almost a second-class citizen. You're limited in where you can move around.
Yeah, so I think it's kind of a lot like Thailand when they had, any degree of quarantine. It was like, look, no one's going to come. And, Tom brings up a good point. He's like, look, dude, I get 2 weeks vacation a year, and that's the whole thing. I don't think that, for the longest time, the only people coming into Thailand were like, I live here. Like, I mean, I'm willing to, like Gracie was coming over. She's willing to, go through the hell of staying in a hotel for 2 weeks because it's like, well, then we're going to be together, like, forever kind of thing. So it's no big deal. But yeah, if you got two, I mean, and then the other thing is you're like, oh, don't worry about it. I'll come in. It'll be no sweat. And then luck of the draw, the guy you're sitting next to on the plane starts coughing up all over you. He doesn't even have it. He's just a carrier. And you show up and but they don't test anymore. Right.
Right. Yeah. They dropped a lot of the stuff for Thailand. Yeah. It's gotten a lot easier. It's just the longer visas that are the issue.
Sure. Yeah. I want to, and then I'll go for, where is there he is. So, whoop. Sorry, I missed it. Where did he say it? There we go. Tim K had issues getting back in the Philippines. Did you hear about this? I mean, I know you guys are kind of connected with and what was that? Was it just a bad luck thing or?
I forget the exact reason. I remember when it happened and they had to, him and Lynn, his wife, they had to turn around and then get a flight back. I forget where they had just come from. I want to say Malaysia or Singapore, but anyway, so they had to do a turnaround and come back, and the whole thing could have been handled so simply if at the Philippines airport they could have just said, well, here, just take a test. If it comes negative, an antigen test, which takes like 20, 30 minutes, an hour, basically.
Yeah.
And then,
waiting.
and then it's a problem that could have been solved in a common sense way very easily, but yeah, that didn't happen.
How many times have we labeled something that occurs in the Philippines with that brush and rolled our eyes, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But, well, I mean, I think, again, a lot of these countries, look at, like it or not, the U.S., China, a couple of others, we're leaders. Okay. We do stuff and people pay attention and then they're like, okay. And then the others are followers. And there's nothing bad about that. It's just that they're like, well, I mean, because, Thailand, we could make up our own rules. And then the whole rest of the world is like, you idiot. What were you thinking? And so, I mean, I think that limits a whole lot of stuff. But so what is it? Is it still July, August? Yeah, it's July. So you're planning basically just later this year.
Yeah, if I'm back in Philippines by September, I'll be very happy. But again, my mindset is like I'm prepared. If it takes till the end of the year, then it takes till the end of the year. Again, it's stuff that's out of my control. A lot of people will ask me, when are you going back? When are you going back? Well, it's out of my. If it was in my control, I would just go. I'd be there like in an hour. But yeah. Oh, one thing that when we were talking earlier about. I remember the day that we were, walking around Coronado and, just talking about everything. And
we do, yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't long after that, like a month or so later, that I did the video where I mentioned 4 different types of expat approaches.
Right.
And that's the one I just re-uploaded this morning.
Mm-hmm.
And
Expat style.
one of those 4 styles is the guy who's the committed bachelor.
Right.
Now, you were with Gracie, and I remember asking you a whole lot of personal questions and stuff about just where you guys felt you were going and all that. And I remember at the end of the day driving home, which led to me doing that video later over in Bacan, was I thought to myself, okay, out of all the different expats I know, there's maybe 1% that I could say, yeah, committed bachelors. They've never been married before. They've just never had that, desire to settle down, and they still are like, well, take it or leave it, And I was, when I got to Vietnam later, I was at that point.
Right.
I was
remember
just
that.
like pure bliss. I was like, if I'm dating, great. If I'm not, great. I'm loving the food. I'm loving the city. Life is awesome. I am totally at one with myself. This is awesome. And I remember thinking, well, I could do this. I could be a committed bachelor the rest of my life. And just date here, date there, let them all know, hey, I'm a free agent, And then I met V.
Right. Yeah.
And so just like you, it's like now for me it was kind of like once V and I had a year together, I just every day I was like, it was like you knew where it was going. It's like, I'm going to marry this woman. It's like I just know. And after like 7 months, I knew for a fact. I didn't tell her, but I knew because I wanted to wait the whole year.
Surprise, honey.
I've always said, wait a year.
Yeah,
and,
no, for sure.
And so after a year, then that's when we started having the marriage talks.
Okay.
And so getting back to that day on Coronado, it's awesome to now be where we are now. Here you are, married guy.
Yeah, I know,
and stoked about it.
Yeah, yeah, right. No, it wasn't a shotgun wedding by any means. And but
I'm engaged and looking forward to it.
Yeah, but I mean, again, that's the thing. It's like 2 days before I met Gracie, I was never going to do it. And even after I met her, I was like, well, I don't know,
Yeah.
And but then it was just like one of those things where it just made sense. And I guess I don't know. I will say that living in the United States, especially Southern California, where basically the pastime, everyone has a lawyer, everyone has a shrink, and everyone has a divorce story.
Yeah.
And not everybody, but several of my male friends, let's just say, meaning all of them. And, it's a sad thing. And a lot of them, tail between their legs. They got no more money, whatever. And then they start asking me the question, well, how much does it cost to live in Thailand? And I'm like, okay, the cost is important, but like, it's the life happiness thing, And I don't know whether like COVID was a catalyst to it, or I think a lot of it was just like the fact, look, I am going to move my life over to basically to Southeast Asia, to Thailand, and I'm going to spend it with Gracie. It wasn't like I'm going to go over there, I'm going to hang out with Gracie and, give it a couple of months. And then, then I'm going to, sign up for REEKAY's bachelor course and I'm going to learn how to really do this thing right. It just fit, man. Just like you. Like, why at 7 months did you have that? Why not at 6? Why not at 8 kind of thing? It just happens.
Yeah.
But I don't know. And I don't know whether it's because we're older and we have more experience. I didn't get, oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm going to get married. I'm like, no. I got plans for the next 11 years. Like I have this Gantt chart and it involves her daughter and education and bank account, adult shit,
Yeah.
Which I mean, and but it's crazy, right? I mean, if you and I were doing a live stream, like 5 years ago, it'd be like, oh, dude, I can't wait. Like before we hit the go live button, it'd be like, dude, I can't wait to go to Boracay. The chicks there, are just, and now it's like,
cocoa mangoes and
red coconut. Yeah, absolutely. It's like, was he a she or was she a he? It doesn't matter. They were great at pool.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a big, but do you find that, and so I've found that the people that follow me, the people in the chat, the people that hang, they've changed as well. Right? Yeah. I mean, your followers, like, and they're no longer like, how do I meet a great 19-year-old? It's like, well, no, like, how do I get, my life together? How do I really plan for this?
Yeah. And that's been, there's been 2 things I've really wanted to emphasize these last 4 years. most recently, of course, it's been, hey guys, let's take better care of our health.
Mm-hmm.
We're finally retired. We finally made it to the tropical island and the umbrella drinks. Um, let's take care of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not pound down 12 beers in an afternoon and
Well,
then
I say that a lot too. Yeah.
and it's like, because sadly, we can all think of an expat friend we've known that is either not with us anymore or
Right.
is not mobile like they used to
Yep.
be, or suffering from, one hospital visit after another. I have
Yeah.
several that have cancer,
Sure.
and some stuff is out of our control, but
Yeah.
it just behooves us at our age to be mindful of what we eat, and try to eat more healthy food, and the whole thing, try to get away from the smoking, get away from the drinking, try to get a little bit of exercise, that kind
Right.
of thing. So that's been my most recent emphasis recently. But before that, it was kind of a dovetail thing because um, while a lot of vloggers were emphasizing, well, hey, look at this waterfall, or look at this Filipina I'm dating,
Mm-hmm.
or
Yeah.
whatever,
Right.
my thing was, let's get our act together.
Right.
Let's get our finances together. Let's get our goals in mind. What do we really want to do with our life? Do we
Yeah.
want to be married? Do we not want to be married?
Right.
Do we want to live full time in a foreign land? Do we want to live 6 months in, in other words, have a plan.
Right.
My whole thing has been, because if you get your act together, well, then it makes it easier to go, I know where I'm going. And if I'm going to have a woman in my life, she's going to merge into my lane. I'm
Yeah.
not going to take the off ramp into the wild yonder into her lane. It's a whole different approach to life.
Well, plus, like I think you've always said, have a plan, but be willing to change the plan.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll tell you,
Modifying the plan is part of the plan.
you're not broke. I'm not broke. I'm not dying. I'm not, whatever. And we've made it through COVID, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of businesses that had a plan, that stuck to the plan, but then changed the plan. They're still alive,
Yeah.
because again, I mean, look, we've also been through 2008 and 2009.
Mm-hmm.
And some of us had more real estate than others. And gratefully, for whatever reason, I decided to sell it all in like 2006. But, to that point, it's like you got to be flexible. And that's what people, Mike, did you have goals where you're just like, okay, in 5 years, I'm going to make it to that? And I was like, no, when I landed in Thailand, I'm like, oh my God, this place is amazing. I want to retire here. But I wasn't like, oh yeah, I got to do it in 5 years. I got to do it in 6. And I certainly wasn't doing, man, I got to do it before the next pandemic. It was just like, be flexible and be open. But yeah, you got to have some degree. Like I call it a foundation for sake of argument, right? You got to have that. You got to have enough money in your pocket and that sort of thing. To the plan part, I want to. Is this one of your subscribers, Matt Chappelle? I don't recognize the name because he said his girlfriend got a passport in Tacloban. Is that how you pronounce it? Tacloban. Tacloban. Where's that?
I don't know. I've never been there actually. I keep hearing it coming up, but I can't mentally picture on the map where
the
it's
first thing I thought was Tagbilaran, which is totally wrong. I know it's not. Yeah,
Tacloban.
It's not. But interestingly enough, the deposits took over. So
wow.
Indeed. So to that point, I absolutely want to retract anything I said as far as I honestly don't know. Mm-hmm. I do know that we went through the process of getting Gracie's daughter her passport, and it was a pain in the ass, and the only way we could do, like we were saying. So for all I know, the DFA might just be totally, they have their act together now, and all you got to do is go online and next finish, you can do it.
Mm.
Is there any...
Here's a good one from Asia Unscripted about the Tim K thing. So he clarifies that he says Tim K wasn't boosted, so that was the issue, the booster. And he didn't have his COVID-19 test. So they sent him and the wife back to Singapore. They got tested there and then flew back very next day. So it ended up turning into a long 36-hour turnaround kind of thing.
Which is kind of weird. I mean, if I'm the Philippines, I'm thinking, okay, this guy doesn't have, he's basically not vaccinated, even though one could argue that if you have two, I thought that was vaccinated. If you didn't, but I didn't realize a booster was. Regardless, I mean, I'm thinking, like at the airport, I'm trying to remember when we entered in February, don't they like have tests available? Aren't they just like, oh, you go to this lane and give us 500 pesos and you do the test? Or is that not, I guess that obviously wasn't available to him. Otherwise, why the hell would they fly back to Singapore?
Oh yeah. So
Oh,
so
KL. Okay, it was Kuala
yeah,
Lumpur. Now, but
yeah.
regardless, I mean, they're both within like a couple hours, I guess, right?
Yeah, and now the Marcos, the new president, he's actually Duterte was very outspoken. Marcos is the
You
exact
think? Yeah.
yeah, to put it mildly.
Right.
Now Marcos is the exact opposite because I've been watching him through this whole election last year or pre-election, campaigning, and while, for instance, he didn't participate in the debates, just wouldn't do it, and then also,
Really?
when all the
Still
other
got to win.
candidates were being, they were like coming out about where they stood with the Catholic Church, where they stood with this, where they stood with that. He was very quiet, and so anyway, so now one of the few things he has, uttered with regard to vaccination, he said two things which I thought were interesting, and this is recently within the last week. One thing he said was, we cannot shut down again. Our economy needs to rebuild. So he goes, we're not going to do lockdown. That's in the past. That's not where we're going.
Nice.
But the other thing he said was he's very much in favor of requiring the booster shots. So the situation that Tim Kaye had, as much as I hope for my situation that they're going to drop the vaccination requirement, it seems to be going the other direction. Marcos seems to be, from the little he has said, he's in favor of everybody being fully vaccinated and boosted. So just putting that out there for people to kind of know which way the wind's blowing.
You mean like the citizens, or for people to enter?
Well, both. For both people in the Philippines and, of course, for anybody coming into the Philippines.
I will say my experience, I mean, like, so where we were in Hamandan, they took the, it was an indoor basketball court. And they had those people. I mean, her daughter went over there and got the Pfizer and then was able to stand in line. It seems like it's fairly available. And so that's a pretty good. That's pretty good. I saw this pop up, and again, we don't want to talk. I mean, well, we can certainly, but neither of us have ever been. Oh, here's my monthly budget, But and thank you for saying that, Juan. The stories and our banter. What kind of quality of life can a retiree have for $6.6 thousand or $6,600 income? And I would submit to you the answer is fantastic.
Yep.
What about you?
When I did one of the 4 budget things, I broke it down into 3. There's the micro budget where guys are surviving under 700. You got most guys I know are doing, somewhere between 1,100 and say 1,900. That's the single family guy, whatever. And then you got the third one, which is what I call the luxury budget, which is $2,000 and up. Now, even with $2,500 in the Philippines, even if you're living in Makati, you're going to have money left over, unless you're just walking down the street handing out bags of money all over the place. So with $6,000 a month,
no, that's
geez, you would have to really be creative to somehow just flush that money out the window or something.
I mean, when we were there for our wedding, we bought a truck. And it was like $5,000, and we had that for a couple of months. So I mean, again, we bought a car, and all in, we were only $2,500 a month. It was 4-wheel drive. It had all these, I put this up. So yeah, I mean, that is kind of. Now, to be fair, there are some places in the United States where $6,600 can go a long way.
Oh, yeah.
Where I was living, where I was living, and I remember we walked out, and I said, "Oh yeah, so that house across the street, it rents for $37,000 a month." And you're like, pesos? And I mean, we both know Coronado is ridiculous. But $6,600, I mean, shit, dude, where you're living right now, $6,600 would be a stellar quality of life.
Oh, yeah. I remember every time we would go, because usually we'd walk all over the place talking and stuff, and then we'd stop and get a $12 burger, or an actual $12 burger. It's not called a $12 burger. It's a $12 burger.
Right. It was the small version.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, darn good burger, but
Sure.
it needs to be, you know, if you're going to pay that
Roger
much.
that. Yeah. No, we're with Burger Lounge, right? Isn't that
Yeah,
where
yeah.
we? Yeah, that's where we ended up going. All right. Here's part 2 of this guy's question. How appealing would a fit American be to an attractive lady from both nations? I don't care what nation you're from. I would submit that being a fit person. I assume you're probably referring to physical fitness. I get that.
Mhm.
But don't forget, dude, that's not it. I mean, you can be an absolute Adonis, but if you show up in Bangkok, you know, they're going to have the conversation, and then they're going to be like, "Wait a minute, you like can't afford street food? You can't afford this, or you don't have goals, or you're not mentally fit, meaning that you're not, you know, of mild intelligence kind of thing."
Right.
But think about it, like how many hot American women have you met that 15 minutes in you're like, you are so unattractive to me.
Right.
Shut your mouth. And to be fair, I've met guys that are like total jerks, you know, and they take care of themselves. So I'm not just saying, but I mean, and so I get what you're saying. But the point is that I'll say, and then we can get REEKAY's opinion. The better offering you show up with, the higher the likelihood that you're going to meet someone else that is similar. Meaning, if you're a fit American, then yeah, you meet an attractive person. If you're an incredibly wealthy person, there's a chance you're probably going to meet an incredibly wealthy mate, you know, sort of thing. You're in like the same circle. What do you think about his question? What's your answer to that one?
Well, I would say that that's true largely in the United States, and in so many ways, when I've had to describe quickly the Philippines to somebody who's never been there, I tell them it's opposite land.
Okay.
Like everything from common sense to you name it. Like
right.
I go in the United States, men have to work really hard to be one of the few guys that's going to get a hot looking woman's attention. It's the opposite land in Philippines. You've got amazingly hot, attractive women that just the fact that you're a foreigner, you're already elevated. It's like, well, he can afford to get on a plane and fly here, so he's got to have money. So you already got that going for you. Now here's where I've got, and I'm telling you this only because it's the truth, and I just want you to be prepared, you know, for anybody that's really physically fit, takes good care of yourself, and I'm all for it. I'm not speaking against it. I'm trying to get fit.
Yeah, sure.
I want to be healthy and all that.
Right.
But believe it or not, again, we're talking about opposite land. It will work against you.
I know where you're going with this. Yeah.
And I have asked several Filipinas, you know, I'm there, I'm in the relationship with them, and I wanted to know, as we're, you know, relaxing there for our pre-siesta, I asked Filipinas that I was in a relationship with. I said, why did you pick me when you're so beautiful? You could be dating some muscle-bound Filipino guy who's 22 years old and he's going to college and, you know, and all this. I go, why are you with me? You know, and I kept getting the same answer. They said two things that work against the physically fit guy. Is number one, she said, oh, well, most of those are gays.
Yep.
You know, and she said, I go, how can you think just because they're muscular, they're gay?
Right,
she goes, well, now again, they're talking about Filipinos.
Yeah, right.
They go, well, if a Filipino guy has got the diet and time to make himself look good, he wants to make some money doing it. And one of the ways is doing modeling.
Yeah, right.
And modeling and the whole gay thing kind of go together like barbershops and ladyboys, you know.
There you go, yeah.
So there's that element. They got, you know, the perception. Now, again, there's often a chasm between perception and reality, but the perception that Filipinos are working off of, if a Filipino guy is muscular, good looking, he's probably gay or at least bi. Here's the second part, which again is going to apply more to foreigners than it will probably equally to the Filipino guys. The second detriment to being muscular and good looking and all that is they know every other Filipino is going to be falling in love with this guy. They're walking hand in hand. They know every single Filipino's eyes is going to be on that handsome, good looking man of theirs. They've got their work cut out for them, keeping all these women at bay.
Yeah.
Now, again, opposite land. I remember one of the most stark images I had my first 2 weeks in the Philippines. I walked over to the Grand Mall and I was there in the mains. If you've ever been to Grand Mall, it's like there's the main entrance and then the big atrium in the middle.
Mactan?
In Mactan.
Okay,
And you turn around, and I turn around, and I am not exaggerating. Here's what I saw. I saw a retired expat guy, probably in his 70s, okay? And he's with a younger Filipino who's probably 24-ish, right about there. She's in high heels. She's a 10, okay? She is gorgeous. And now we've all seen that. But the thing is, this guy, I am not kidding. He is pulling along one of those oxygen cylinders.
Wow.
And he's got that on.
Right.
And she is just beaming to be with this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, two things are at play, two dynamics that I figured out looking at that. One, not so many Filipinas are going to want to steal away her oxygen guy.
Yeah.
And number two, she now brings something to the table. I'm here to take care of you. Yeah. I will, it's instead of just being, the dependent who's living off the rich foreigner.
Yes.
There's an equal transaction there. I hate to use that word, but
no, I know what you mean.
There's a symbiosis.
Yes.
They help each other. And so when you see younger Filipinas with guys that are heavyweight, I have known lots of expats who are overweight, and not one of them had trouble getting a girlfriend.
Oh, right, sure. And an attractive one.
An attractive one, yeah. Because, again, in somewhere in that Filipina girlfriend's mind, it's like, well, hopefully the other Filipinos won't want to take him because he's a little bit big or I mean, I've met plenty of expat guys that were, missing an arm, missing a leg. They were in a wheelchair, in bad health. And that Filipina is all over, like taking care of him,
Right.
So
now again, I mean, true love, right? It goes above. So I get that, but I understand where you're going with the opposite.
But so now that's not to say that a physically fit, handsome guy is not going to get a Filipina. It's just expect she's going to be really jealous. She's going to be on hyper jealous mode because she thinks every other Filipino is going to, and they're going to presume, well, he's a cheater. He can have other girls, so I know he's going to cheat on me. It's just you're going to have to deal with that.
I would say that the whole he's going to cheat on me thing, that seems to be one of the top 5 reasons why the younger Filipinas will be with us older guys.
Yeah.
Because I remember Gracie and she told me a story. She and I had first started dating, and there was this other guy. He was younger, and I don't know whether he was a Filipino, but he was younger. And he made some comment to her. She's like, "Oh, you like dirty old men or whatever," and she's like, "You're not done.
I showered.
You're still, exactly." I'm like, wait a second.
Sometimes twice a day.
I got $11 in I got a full 500 pesos. But it's because she doesn't have to worry. She's like, this guy, he's not going to cheat on me. Now, again, there was some, idea, and I go back home or whatever. And then I fly her to California, and she sees me, and she's like, you don't have any, you work your ass off. You don't have any time. That kind of thing. And then she also saw other behaviors of mine, which is like, we don't walk down the street and my head goes, wow, look at that chick's ass. I mean, so it's the older thing that's like, I don't have to worry, and I mean, and sadly, the other story, how many stories do we hear of Filipina girl in her 20s or whatever, got pregnant and then had this, and he friggin' bails because he's like finding another girl, right? Kind of thing. And it's like this ridiculous stereotype, which sucks for the Philippines. I mean, thank God that, like, the stereotype of Americans, as far as I know, isn't guy marries girl and bails.
Right.
Because if he doesn't end up in jail, and there's some accountability over here. But and so to that, I'm actually really psyched about Juan's third one here, which is how likely is it for a gal to stay in a long-term relationship without marriage? My answer is not very long. I will tell you that now Gracie didn't give me an ultimatum, but there was this sort of discussion about, well, I'll give him 5 years, and I'm like, I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
I mean, if she wants, kind of thing. But I think she also realized along the way that it was like, well, wait a minute, I'm sort of developing this, this, our relationship is growing. I will also say that, I don't know about, whether you'll get this or not, but I had I get married, right? And of course, Mike's never going to get married. And so they get, and the standard, oh, hey, dude, how's married life? And I'm like, honestly, dude, we got married Tuesday and Wednesday was the exact same thing. I was equally as happy. I was stoked about the commitment. As far as I'm concerned, we were married long before we showed up to sign the stuff. I mean, I was committed. I wasn't, it wasn't like, well, I got to go have a bachelor party and have like the last night of my life, before I'm locked in. It was just like, I was already committed there. What's your experience been? Because I know that you've lobbed over the net. Okay, honey, look, I'm willing to stay with you, but I am not getting married. Or another way, I am not having kids. And I know both you and I have another reason why we can't do that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so what do you think about that long term without marriage?
Well, what I have said, for years, over and over and over again, both in personal conversations with expats that have contacted me, in my videos, I have said the same thing over and over and over again, and I have lived by it, is if you still need variety, don't have a girlfriend, don't have a wife.
Right. Yeah, it makes logical sense, right? Yeah, but
why invite the drama? Why hurt somebody else like that? So for myself, when I met V, I was so impressed. Literally, the first nanosecond I physically laid eyes on her and looked in her eyes, I mentally, the first image I had was like in my mind, like just wiping everything off my desk. And I decided right then and there, I don't want to talk to another Filipina. I don't want to date another Filipina. I got to know, who is this person?
Right.
And to this day, it's like, I don't want anything else. I don't want anyone else. I don't, and it's the sort of, it's almost like reaching the point of insanity. It's like, it's hard to imagine until you get there.
Yeah.
And it's like, prior to that, I'll be honest, it's like I would meet a Filipina and it's like, oh, she's really cool. And let's see how it goes. And she's really fantastic. But there was always some part of me holding back, thinking to myself, well, either like, well, maybe I should look around more, or, well, maybe I don't like this or that about her, or what, there was always some reservation. But with V, I imagine a lot of guys can relate to this when they met their wife and they're happy in their marriage. They just knew they're done looking. Not that they found a perfect person, but they found somebody they can commit to, somebody they want to spend the rest of their life with.
I will tell you that, I understand why you say it's not a perfect person, but I can tell, Gracie's perfect. Like, meaning that, like, her imperfections, as other people might label, little things that, bother me. Like she's way too obsessed with, like, what we're going to eat. I could literally go 3 days without food. I don't care. I would love to be a robot. I wish I never had to eat, sleep, or go to the bathroom. But that's a weird life, and that's weird. So, but thank God, because she's like, no, what are we going to have for dinner tonight? And I'm like, oh, that's probably an important thing to think about, because I didn't think about it.
It's like 7 a.m. Yeah. No, what are we going to have for dinner?
Does V do the same thing? Yeah, no, Gracie does the same thing. We'll be like, is having coffee. She hasn't even had breakfast yet. She's like online, YouTube. I think I'm going to actually make salmon. I'm like, for breakfast? No, for dinner. It's amazing. My mom loves it. I'm looking at her right now. She's like, not even,
yeah.
But it is, again, and what's funny is I don't think this has anything to do with the Philippines or Thailand or that sort of thing. It's the infamous once you meet the one, maybe, And I remember hearing that, throughout my life, and I guess, I don't know, for some reason I just was like, blind, I guess she just didn't show up. Is the bottom line in Southern California. So let's throw this up there just because I want to kind of wrap up this whole like traveling to the Philippines kind of thing. Edward said he cruised into through Korean Air, which I know we both really, really like. For no other reason than we get to fly through Incheon, which is amazing.
Hot
wonderfully
showers.
Soft towels.
Love hot showers.
Pregnant lady in front of me that got denied boarding because she had, I guess didn't have a health pass, and she was a Filipino. Oh, I had no one health pass. I know what you know the app, right? One health pass. Yeah. I don't know if it was because she was pregnant, but that data point one. Again, maybe not. I don't know, but yeah. I mean, look, dude. Here's the other thing too: is that there are plenty. I've entered Thailand plenty of times. REEKAY's been in and out of the Philippines, and every now and then you're in the line, and the immigration officer is in a bad friggin' mood.
Yep.
Or they're totally lame. The time I mean, I am so excited. I am moving to Thailand permanently. I land at like 1 a.m. I'm thinking there's going to be no line. I'm in the shortest line. And for whatever reason, I get to this guy. I got my 1-year visa. I'm over 50. I'm retired. I got my piece of paper that says I have insurance. I'm going to go, and I'm ready.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy, and I said, yeah. So stamp it for a year. He's like, He's literally got his phone on his desk. And he's sitting there like watching a video. And I'm just like standing there because I'm thinking, all right, whatever, dude. I've been online and I've canceled AOL before. I've got this. I can suck it up, for the. But the point is that he was just in whatever mood he was. And he was like, I'm not going to rifle through this guy. I am going to sit here and jerk off while he basically stands here and sucks it up. And then eventually he gave me a stamp. And all of a sudden I was allowed to come into Thailand for a year. Yeah. But, I mean, to that point, I'm not saying I would submit to you that every single pregnant lady that doesn't have a One Health pass, probably some of them get through.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. And
well, it's like, I don't know. I guess I would like to use the word inconsistency, but, considering the volume of people they got to shove through there, they're not going to, like, for instance, with the onward flight, they're not going to look up every onward flight, But again, I want to have it because I don't want to be the guy that they do check the flight, Yeah,
because then you're sitting at the side on your laptop praying the Wi-Fi is good enough so that you could buy a $19 ticket to get the hell out of Manila and go to KL.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Which actually nowadays guys are telling me that they're getting them more like for 65, 75. They've gone up a bit, but yeah.
I guess I suppose that's true.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be. Yeah, I think I was getting like $25 flights to Kuala Lumpur, out of Clark. Now guys are telling me like to Taipei or Saigon or whatever, even KL, they're like about $85 But it's just the cost of admission.
Well, I mean, it's not, I mean, you're driving a plane and it uses fuel, and shocker, that's more expensive today than it was yesterday, kind of thing, right? But I will tell you that our round trip ticket, Bangkok, Boston through Tokyo, the cost of the ticket was $400 round trip, and then it was $350 for the taxes. And if you've ever booked a flight on Cebu Pacific, that experience all day long. The thing is advertised for like 350 pesos, and all of a sudden you click on you're about to pay, you're like 3,900. What the?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then, but see, just the concept of requiring an onward flight, just at face value makes zero sense.
Really? Because you don't think? I mean, they're just like, look, dude, I just want to make sure you're getting the hell out of my country.
Well, but that's the thing. I know from, and we can probably even think of some examples of, guys in the public blogosphere who they, these expats who go into a country like, say, Philippines, and they got no money, they end up destitute, whatever. Even if they had that ticket, they don't take it. They don't want to go. They want to stay in the Philippines. So just because somebody comes in the country and waves and says, "Oh, I got a ticket here to leave," that doesn't mean he's going to leave. Nobody's going to grab him and throw him on that flight. He's, even if he runs out of money in 30 days, he's going to stay, basically in the Philippines. That ticket, it doesn't guarantee to the Philippine government any guarantee that this destitute guy is going to do the right thing and get on the plane and leave.
True.
So it's like, it's really pointless and useless. I mean, it really doesn't serve any real purpose, other than making money for the airlines.
Well, again, all I ever did is book a refundable ticket.
Yeah. And some guys, what they do is, like, say they're going to land in Cebu, but they know they want to be in Dumaguete. So they'll get a changeable ticket, say with whoever, Philippine Airlines, whoever, somebody will fly domestic. So they'll land, show it as their ongoing ticket, and then they just change it to take a domestic flight to Dumaguete.
Yeah.
And then they get something out of it,
I mean, I guess I can see the reasoning behind it, right? But again, it's not. There's no guarantee.
No.
And that's your point, right? Because
Yeah.
I remember when Gracie flew in here the first time, she absolutely had to have a round trip ticket. And in fact, when I told the Canadian government a few years ago that Gracie and I, we're here, I'm Canadian, we're going to drive across the border, we're going to check out Niagara Falls, we're going to drive back. They responded because they're Canadian, so they're incredibly nice. And they actually told me the reason. They're like, you haven't proven to us that you're going to leave. And I'm like, I should have booked a friggin' round trip ticket. Because for some reason that's good enough, And again, I get it. But I mean, think about the way the visa system works here in the United States. She gets this visa. I mean, it's a pain in the ass to get, but she gets it, right? Yeah. She can stamp in, she can stay here for 6 months, but you don't have to report where you are. Like in Thailand, it depends on the visa, but for the most part, if you're there long term, you got to report where you are every 90 days. I have a different one now, so it's only once a year. Yeah. What about Philippines? Do you have to report where you are every?
No. No. Once you're in, you just run amok, and it's.
You need to renew it though, don't you?
You have to renew it, but you could do one renewal in Cebu, and then 2 months later you could renew in Manila, and
oh sure.
And what's crazy is that they'll ask you on the form to put your address. Well, you might be staying at a hotel for 4 days that
no,
week.
they don't verify. They don't call up. Yeah. No, I know.
And then you're at a different Airbnb, 2 weeks later. So, I don't know. There's a form, so you got to put something in the boxes.
Yeah, right. No doubt. Well, it's like the health certificate, right? I mean, you could show up with syphilis and AIDS and be like, no. And as long as you sign, like, what are they going to do? Right.
Right.
It's just like, I'll turn to the left and cough.
Yeah. Typhoid Mary. Yeah.
Typhoid Mary.
I don't have typhoid. No. Okay. Well, come on in.
I don't have epilepsy. I'm just incredibly happy.
Yeah.
Short answer, Rick. I think Gracie and I were together for, I want to say, 4 years before we finally got married, kind of thing. But so, dude, we are at 2 hours. And,
man, that flew by.
And your mom and your aunt are going to start banging on the wall again.
Yeah. All right. Well, man, always good to hang out with you.
Totally.
And,
yeah,
man. So hopefully, probably the next time we'll meet up, we'll be there either in the Philippines or Thailand, one of the two.
So, okay, let me tell you guys a short story. So it is, I mean, again, I moved to Thailand permanently. REEKAY's in the Philippines. Gracie's coming with me. And we're like, hey, REEKAY, I'm over in this part of the world. Let's totally get together.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, great. We'll book. Was it the Camotes Islands?
Camotes Islands, yeah.
Right off of, right. So we're like, great. We're gonna fly in. REEKAY's gonna be there with his girlfriend. I'm gonna be there with my girlfriend. We got Airbnbs rented. We're gonna get a shitload of motorbikes. We're gonna have this. Oh my god! I literally rented. We got round trip plane tickets, and of course we think, well, March of 2020. What the hell? I mean, it'd be an amazing time. Canceled everything. How long did it take you to get your money back for our meeting?
It was about, well, the Airbnb for the resorts took about a month and a half, and then what was it? There was what else did we spend on? I know it took. Oh no, that's right. We had tried to fly to Davao to get away from the COVID thing, and we thought it would be less strict over there. Right. So we had plane tickets, and those took about 8 months.
Yeah, I was going to say 6 to 8 months, and they were just like, and you're sitting there, and you're probably thinking these guys, they're in the boardroom, at Cebu Pacific. Yeah. They're going, we are so broke. It is not even funny how many charges we've had to get. I think Gracie corrected me, Rick, by the way. Apparently it was 6 years. Is that what you said?
Oh.
5 years until we got married. Okay, so she gave me 5 years, and so I just nicked it right underneath the thing. Anyway, dude, thank you so much. I mean, I'm honored that everyone else basically came to hang out with us while we caught up.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But this has been awesome. But yeah, I guess selfishly, it would be awesome if you came over to Bangkok because.
Well, we want to get there. I mean, to see the monkeys, and then you guys will be there. So it's a win-win.
Here's the thing, if I am in Thailand for more than a month and I don't send you a monkey video, fly your ass over there and just start strangling me. What the hell? You're not going to share this, Mike? What the hell kind of a friend are you, dude?
I know, man. I have gone on a quest 3 different times in the Philippines to see a monkey, and every single time the monkey got sold or moved like 2 weeks before I got there. The only monkeys I saw was in Vietnam. I saw a monkey at the church.
Oh.
Okay. But not in the Philippines. I have not seen one monkey in the Philippines since 2012.
The last video I sent you, how many were there? Was like 30 of
Oh,
them.
they were all over the place. They were like raining in from the clouds. I mean, they were.
In fact, I remember the video. I'm cruising down the street on my motorbike, and they are just like all over the place. And I got my hand. I gotta send this to friggin' REEKAY, you know, before I crash.
Yeah. Oh man. All right. Well, man, definitely glad we decided to do this.
Absolutely.
And again, sorry we couldn't answer every single comment.
Yeah, guys.
But yeah, we're just kind of hanging out and having some fun.
Before to that point, how do they get in touch with you to ask you questions about the Philippines, and then I'll tell them how about me?
Yeah, I can put. Let's see. I'll put in the comments my link to my Facebook, and anybody can message me. A lot of people now. I used to do paid consultations. I don't do that anymore. I still will help guys out, work things out. You know, I just don't charge anybody for it anymore.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to make myself more available to help more people. And
nice.
So if anybody wants to contact me with a strange situation or they got a question, whatever, chances are I've got a video on it. I'll send you that, or I'll answer. So just message me at my Facebook. Yeah.
Is it the one REEKAY Velez?
Yeah.
REEKAY.new?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay, cool. I'll tell you what. I'll just throw that in the chat right now, and then you can like throw it in the description later. But and then for me, it's just the simple way is just livemyassoff@gmail.com. That's the absolute easiest way to get a hold of me because I'm on Facebook and all that stuff. But livemyassoff@gmail.com and ends up in my inbox. REEKAY, thank you so much, brother. It's great seeing you.
Man.
Thanks for watching, guys. Talk to you soon. Ciao.
Bye-bye.